Have you ever made a sim just to have them completely change all of your plans? I admit, I spend a lot of time in Create a Sim. It's one of my favorite ways to deal with my boredom, but when I made this sim, there was just something about her. I think it was something about her eyes that just made me want to tell her complete story. And I admit, initially it took me a while to figure out what her story would be. I was so captivated by something in her face that I got to work just making some light changes because I didn't want to change the essence of who she was. And it took me a while to settle on hair as well because, like I said, I wasn't really sure what sort of setting that I was going to put her in. But as I looked at her more, I realized that I'd gotten a lot of medieval type CC recently, and I thought that she was going to be the perfect sim to try it out on. And as I got more of this sort of fantasy medieval custom content on her, I began to realize that I really wanted to tell her story. I love The Sims Medieval. It is one of my favorite games, and it really hurts me that they have never made a Sims 4 version of it because I think the original game was really ahead of its time in a lot of ways. In the past, I've shied away from doing medieval stuff in The Sims 4 just because a lot of times you have to use a lot of mods to turn off things like the cell phones and all of the other technology and stuff, and I know people have done it, but it kind of breaks the game for me, especially with the amount of CC that I'm running. I've got like 150 gigs of CC, and admittedly, I usually only put 100 gig in at any given time, but still, adding too much custom content and mods makes the game run like crap, so I really didn't want to have to do that. So I was trying to invent ways in my mind while I was making this character that I could have her be like the medieval aesthetic, but not have to mod my game to heck in order to tell her story. The more I thought about it, the more the following quote came to mind. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and magic is something that we have in the game, albeit something that I think was a little bit neglected by its original expansion pack. One of the other things that has held me back from this type of play in the past is the fact that I have kind of wondered if my audience wanted it. On my old Sims channel, it was dedicated more to realism, and thus fantasy Sims were not necessarily what the audience appreciated. But I realized here, starting with a new audience, this was a prime opportunity for me to do the things that I had always wanted to do in The Sims. Play a magical fairy tale world where magic was the excuse for all of the technology, so we could still have things like cell phones and computers and such if I wanted. At minimum, I didn't have to worry about them being like absolute game breaker, deal breaker type things. And as a member of the LGBTQ community, I felt pressured to do a lot of content that focused on cishet Sims because that's what the majority of my audience at the time wanted, despite the fact that I've really wanted to investigate concepts that are more true to my community, like found family and things of that nature. It was from these musings that fragments of this Sims story began to tell itself in my mind. She was originally a princess who came from another kingdom, betrothed to a man that she didn't love. When her father said, "Well, we'll find you another man, another prince that you can love," she realized that no man would ever make her happy because that's not the way her preferences lay. But as a princess of the kingdom, there were certain obligations that she was beholden to, and she knew that she could never stay there and be her true self. Fortunately, she had a fairy godmother, and that godmother came from a fairy realm where people were free to love who they chose. And these stories that her fairy godmother would tell her of this magical fairy land really entranced the young princess, who I eventually named Yvette. Fairies and fairy tales are something that have interested me ever since I was a child, and is something that I've really wanted to experiment a lot with in my storytelling. And in this realm, I'm kind of using the fairy realm as a kind of symbolism for the queer community as a whole. And I'm really excited about the things that I have planned. So I'm gonna have a few other videos coming out that are Create a Sim for the other Sims, the other fairies of the realm. Her fairy godmother is gonna come up in a couple of minutes because I created her as a member of the family. I also have a couple of builds planned for the various Sims that are going to be living nearby, so be sure to tune in for that. If you'd like to see that kind of content, please be sure to give me a follow. I'd really appreciate it. One of the things that I always try to do with my Sims is kind of give them like a favorite color or a color theme or something like that, both because it makes it easier for me to plan their outfits and it makes them feel like more fulfilled humans or more complete humans, but also because it makes it easier for audiences to tell them apart because sometimes it can be difficult, especially with Sims that can kind of look similar. So this Sim's color is going to be blue. If you noticed, her athletic outfit was kind of more of a like rangery type thing because I don't know that athletic wear is necessarily in accordance with the vision that I have for this place. Admittedly, because there are fairies and magic, everything is congruent with the vision for this place because anything could be made possible with their magic, but I did want to keep in concordance with like a medieval type, at least major overarching aesthetic, so things kind of look like they fit, but I admit not all of the Sims are in accordance with that aesthetic. I think everything is going to look alright in the end, though. In the past, I got obsessed with hyperrealism, trying to get the most realistic custom content that I could possibly get, because if you have a lot of really realistic custom content and then you put a single piece of match things in there, it looks weird, it sticks out. But one of the things that I'm realizing is that if you have a good blend of a lot of different things fit in a lot better than if like you have all alpha CC and then one piece of Maxis Match or vice versa. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to ensure with my aesthetic is that everything kind of fits by virtue of everything being allowed, if that makes sense. I did, for swimsuits, I did a lot of like really like viney, interesting, like what if you had magic would you conceal yourself with to swim? Because I just don't think fairies are going to choose spandex in like any universe at any technology level. One thing that I haven't quite decided for this character is that the royalty mod does have a runaway royal type achievement or aspiration, and I think at some point in time I do want to do that. I just don't think that's what I'm going to want to do initially. I'm thinking that I want to first establish her, get her like to learn who she is as a person, decide what things she actually likes versus the things that she was told she had to like because of her station in birth. I want to make her a fully rounded individual before I actually pursue her romance and her future as a character. So now we're moving on to Zarena. This is her fairy godmother slash governess slash maternal figure in her life because obviously her royal mom didn't have time to raise her and all of that jazz. For this character, I wanted her to look older, but I still wanted her to have a really friendly face and disposition, and I really did struggle over her hair because I wanted something that felt right for her station in life, but didn't feel, I don't know, too beneath a main character because she is going to be a main character in this story, and I think part of it is going to be allowing her to be a character that is more than a governess, a servant figure. I want her to find joy of her own, and I want part of my story to be her getting some freedom in her life and finally being free of the obligation of raising Yvette, because Yvette is now a woman of her own who can make her own decisions and doesn't need the heavy level of guidance that a governess type figure would provide. So I think a good part of my roleplay is going to be figuring out who this character is outside of just being a fairy godmother. What's important to her? What things does she value? And I'm going to have a wide array of fairy characters in this realm that they can make friends with, have romantic relationships with, whatever they choose. And I'm kind of going to just let the roleplay go. I have a number of different possible romantic interests for Yvette, so I don't have it in mind which way I'm going to go. I'm just kind of see who she gets along with well. I have a lot of mods and add-ons that are going to make this even more interesting and even more realistic. I have all of Lumpino or Lumpino's mods, which are going to make the relationships and stuff more interesting, and I also have the royalty mod as well that's going to add some zest to the royal roleplay because there is a royal cast of characters in the Fae realm as well. This is not going to be a one princess town for certain. And I'm going to be setting everything in Glimmerbrook because it already does have a little bit of magical appeal. All of the fairies are mages or wizards or whatever you call the occult, but all of the fairies have magical powers, so that's going to explain away a lot of the things. And I do think at some point in time, part of the roleplay is going to be Avette becoming a fairy. I think that would be really fun and interesting and a good conclusion to her story and a good way of showing her empowerment and her agency as a character. But, you know, let me know what you think in the comments if you have any thoughts about the storyline. In a couple seconds, you're going to get a quick sneak peek of some of the other characters that I have joining this roleplay. My favorite underrated add-on for The Sims is by Lord Voldemort, and it's called Copy Outfit, and you're going to see it in a second. Basically, it allows you to copy everything from the everyday outfit to all of the other outfit slots, where if you use a lot of skin details and things like that that are in the makeup section, you don't have to do them in every single outfit. It is astonishing, it is amazing, it is stunning. That is why I'm just really quickly getting her like dressed and everything like that and getting her a name so that I can log into the game. Unfortunately, it doesn't work in Create a Sim. You do have to log into the game and just type in a little bit of a command to get all of the outfits copied over. But let me tell you, when you make Sims like I do and there's a lot of makeup and things like that, it takes a lot of time out of the creation. It takes a lot of the tedium out of the creation. For her wings, I really wanted her to have like old school fairy wings because like she's an old school fairy, and I do have a lot of different wings. I'm very excited about all of the fairies and all of their wings. Those teeth just absolutely couldn't stay though. That was a travesty. So you see me go into the game, quick sneak peek of things that you weren't meant to see, but you know what? You got to see them. And just go into the roleplay and copy outfit, and then boom, everything's moved over to the other slots, and then I just have to change the clothing that she's wearing. I don't have to set her eyeballs and her blush and all of that every time, which is just a huge time savings. So for Zarena, her color is red, and initially I have her in kind of servant-y type clothes because I'm going to have her, you know, learning what her own preferences is and growing as her own person as part of the roleplay, and I think her outfits are going to be symbolic of this. This I had to cut down a lot because her hoo-ha just kept coming up into the frame, so hopefully I edited all of those segments out. But this sim just did not want to be fully clothed for no matter what I did. I don't know what exactly was going on there. And when I was making these two Sims, I didn't really have any sleepwear or swimwear that was really appropriate for this setting, so I did log off later and get more stuff, and you're going to be able to see that at the end when I show off all of their outfits, what their new swim and sleepwear is, because I think I did a pretty good job at getting them, you know, feeling more or less like they belong in a fairy tale environment. You're going to have to let me know down below what you think I did with their outfits, if you like it, if you don't like it, what have you. Now, if you're coming from the other video that I posted today, which is a speed redecoration / reworking of an existing lot, you're probably expecting this to be a roll for sim, and I do intend upon doing the roll for sims content here. I'm going to do longer form videos of those because it's something that I really enjoy doing, but initially my plan was to have roll for sims be the way that I populated my environment, but then I was just having too much fun making sims of my own regard. So that plan kind of got kicked out of the water. Like I said at the very beginning, Avette really changed all of my plans. I had a lot of plans, but then when I made her, I just wanted to tell her story so bad, and I made her her fairy godmother and a collection of friends, and I'm just so excited about this sim and about everything that I have planned for it. So if you're excited about that too, I invite you to stick around. I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you so very much for watching to this point. I do have another channel linked down below, so if you want to see more of my content, you can just click down there. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.